an Ironic Media production. Visit us at ironickmedia.com.
You're crazy, man. You're a loser. Playoffs?
It's the Mark and Lowell Show.
The Mark and who?
Starring the meteorologist who does it for the viewers.
Smoke!
Lowell Melser.
Can you get out of here?
And the man who rides the coattails of his friends and family. Mark Ronick.
Hey guys, there's enough with the amplifier.
And now, here they are. Radio's equivalent of a dial-up connection.
Hello, boys.
Mark and Lowell.
Welcome back to the Mark and Lowell Show. Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year to you, Lowell.
I can't believe we made it. And the question is, do we have COVID or do we not have COVID?
That's true. Well, we are recording this technically before the new year. And who knows, maybe by now, when this is airing, we both have COVID.
Yeah, we'll have a whole slew of shows to talk about.
Yeah, that is true. We definitely will. So I hope everybody had great holidays, great new year, and your 2022 is kicking off well. And today on the show, I call Lowell out for a post he had back in November. I mean, this was like a 10-tweet all about Taylor Swift.
It was about a month or so ago when she re-released a song that resonated with a lot of her fans and brought on some new fans, and my wife was really taken with it. So I did a deep dive and just published my thoughts on the song.
We should tell our new listeners, normally we're not really talking a lot about Taylor Swift on this show.
No, not on my radar, and not on, and frankly, a year ago, not on, or a couple of years ago, not on my wife's radar either. COVID brought it all together, which we'll explain in the episode.
Well, then I guess without further ado, we should get right to it.
Sounds good to me.
Resistance is futile. It's the Mark and Lowell Show.
Who knew Lowell could tweet 10 tweets about Taylor Swift? What prompted this? What brought this about? Why did you feel so compelled?
I mean, I said this in the tweet, but during the pandemic, there were all kinds of things that were on Netflix. There was that Tiger King and like different things that people would watch. Well, one of the things that came out was a documentary on Taylor Swift called Miss Americana.
Uh-huh.
And me and Allie, for that matter, not knowing much of anything about Taylor Swift except what we saw in the media about, how she has all these relationship problems,
right,
and, this and that, and she's weird and
right,
and just basing purely off what you're getting off the media, not actually just seeing what's going on. So they did this documentary and they did a deep dive into Taylor Swift, and she's had a rough go at it. Not her fault at all, just how she's portrayed. And they showed that time when she won the Grammy and Kanye West went up on stage and made her look horrible in front of everyone, saying that Beyonce should have won it and this and that. And there was a big backlash against her because of that. And she had just gotten her heart broken over and over again, no fault of her own.
Right.
And then it dove into like all the music that she's done. And, she started out on Star Search.
Yes, which is so crazy.
Yeah, like as a little girl. And didn't win.
When she was on Star Search, was that like, because I feel like it's come out, it's had a new iteration since when we used to watch it when we were kids. Was it the actual, was it like the Ed?
It was the Ed McMahon Star Search, yeah, the old ones.
Wow,
yeah, the old ones.
Okay.
But she's in her 30s, or she's like 30 or 33, she might be. Yeah, she's in her 30s. So, maybe it was in the 90s when she was on Star Search, but I think that was still Ed McMahon in the 90s.
Yes.
If you want to do a deep dive on Star Search, there's so many people that were on Star Search.
I know.
I guess that was the American Idol of our time.
It absolutely was. That was the only game in town, and that was definitely the American Idol of the times.
But like
for sure.
So many more famous people came out of that show than anything else. At the end of the day, after watching the documentary, I mean, I was just blown away, and Allie did a huge rabbit hole dive on Taylor Swift and overnight became a Swiftie. Like, she was just completely sold 100%.
I know. Well, Taylor Swift was on SNL in November, and I had sent Allie the 10-minute performance that she had done with her new song, and I was surprised. I think I beat Allie to the punch. I don't think she had seen it until I sent it to her. She was quite excited.
Yeah, there were all kinds of different. Yeah, they had that video that came out and all that kind of stuff. So Allie did this deep dive and everything, and then this whole thing with this All Too Well song, this 10-minute song that Saturday Night Live let her perform, which is like unbelievable.
Amazing.
10 minutes. Who?
I mean, here's the thing. A, did they know she was going to do 10 minutes? And B, if they didn't know, what were they doing in the control room? Like, were they freaking out? Because if they were to cut it, SNL would have been ripped to shreds.
No, this was a total planned thing because they only she only had one performance in the middle of the show, so it was 10 minutes long. And she had gone on Fallon and who's the other guy, Seth Meyers. She had gone on those two shows and said she was going to do the full version, so they knew. And it was produced that way. You could see. Allie's like been all into this song lately,
right?
I listened to some of the stuff, but Allie's just like completely, and she tells me everything about Taylor, and a lot of it I'm just like, oh yeah, she like I'm into it, but like she's like really into it. All the lyrics,
like Jonah was with Counting Crows.
Exactly.
Yes.
And all the lyrics and all the lyrics. So she wanted to watch this 10-minute video came out of this. She wanted to watch it together, so I watched it with her, and I was moved by it. It's an old song. It's like from one of her old, long story short, what she's doing now, I don't know if you know what this whole thing, this is another thing that was in the documentary, how she's just gotten completely screwed over by the record company. And then this guy bought all of her titles, and she has no rights to any of her songs. So now what she's doing is going back and recording all these albums and then re-releasing them with like bonus tracks, like a lot of things that were on the cutting room floor that now she's adding to all these albums, and like so it gives people a reason to like rebuy the album. And what was funny is, not to get too in the weeds with Taylor Swift, but like this song, apparently from what Allie tells me, it was like one of these songs on the album that was kind of like a throwaway at the time. It was it was like a fan favorite track, but it was never released on the radio. Back when we used to listen to albums, do you remember this? Like when we were younger?
Yeah.
We'd listen to the whole CD. We had mostly CDs, like, or tapes.
Yeah.
Or tapes. You'd listen over and over again to the whole album.
Yeah.
Right? And you'd find, you'd hear the songs that they were playing on the radio, but there were like usually like 3 or 4 tracks that you personally would really like, that were not on the radio, were never going to be on the radio.
Exactly right. I remember as a kid, like not understanding the whole system. And I remember calling and requesting those off radio tracks and never hearing them and getting so frustrated because I'm like, oh, this is a great song. Why aren't you playing it? But yeah, they're not going to play it because I called and asked.
You and I back in the day used to listen to a lot of rap music. Once in a while on a Friday or Saturday night when like WPGC was doing the mix or whatever, you'd sometimes hear some of the songs that they would not play on the radio, and you'd get all excited.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this was like one of those songs. So like I listened to the lyrics, and it brought me back to like when we were younger and dating and how complicated it was.
So this is all about like heartbreak, this song,
and, like,
which shocker, but
it's no secret. I mean, the song was written about Jake Gyllenhaal, and I guess this was like, they only went out for like 3 months, but she was 19, he was 10 years older than her, and
she was enamored.
Right, the long story short is like this was her first love, and he really broke her heart, and then it's like it brings you back to like when you're younger, maybe your first love, or like, for me, I always had a hard time because I would meet girls at camp that would be girlfriends of mine, and we'd have really close relationships. And then you go away to college, and then it kind of falls apart, and it kind of just brought me back to there. If Jonah was here, I know he'd pipe in.
Yeah, he's the king of heartbreaks. Yeah,
so I mean, I wish he was here because I know he would would definitely have 2 cents on this.
There were times where a time where I drove to Virginia Beach when you were living there and helping you move out of a bad situation.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And then as kids, I mean, isn't it funny? It's like you said it. She was in this relationship probably for 3 months or something like that, right? And yet now she's written a 10-minute song about her heartbreak from a 3-month relationship. Like when you think about that insignificant amount of time in your entire life, it's like, how could that really be so heartbreaking?
Right.
You weren't in it for that long, right? But it's just, we get in our heads, and we just, especially when we're younger, and we
Right.
just think all is lost.
I think one of the most difficult things about ending a relationship is when you start to see, and that's what this song is about too, is you start to see the cracks in the wall.
You start seeing the signs that it's not really
Something's
working,
happening
and you're
here.
pretending.
Right.
You're pretending you're not seeing
Right.
them.
You're like, no, this is okay. It's not a red flag.
Right.
I'm all right. I'm all right. And then they just,
Yeah.
and then everything just starts snowballing from there. And
Yep.
then you get wrapped into it. So it moved me to get this off my mind.
It was something that brought you back, and you could relate to.
Right. And then,
Yeah.
then it got me thinking about my kids. Unfortunately for them, part of life is they're going to have to go through this. And with your
Yep.
kids, you just want to protect them. But something like this, you can't protect them.
Oh yeah, we've got a couple of our kids are in relationships, and there are the ups and downs. And you, as a parent, like you said, you want to protect them. You want them to be happy. And then on the other hand, it's like, it's part of life, and it's what shapes them into who they are, and you got to let it happen. You got to just be there as a support and hope that they'll come out of it okay.
Right, and that's what I emphasized in the tweet too. It's like, if you're with somebody who breaks your heart, it helps you so that you don't make that same mistake again, hopefully, and it helps you find the person that you're really supposed to be with.
Who would you say broke your heart the most in your younger years? Like, or your first heartbreak?
Well, I mean, I guess it would, the first serious relationship I had in camp. I'm not going to say names, but my
Okay.
first, you know who it is. My very
Yeah,
first.
you could say a first name. No, you don't even want the person
I don't
to know.
I just for privacy reasons. But
Okay.
But yeah, it was the first look in high school and stuff. You had different things, but it wasn't like this. This was the first person that I really found myself falling in love with, and we had like the best summer ever. And that in itself can be awful, because summer is when you're in your early. How old were we? I guess I was
Probably late teens, early
late
20s,
teens, early
maybe.
20s. Not a responsibility in the world. Summer camp, counselor. And
Right.
the times that you and I had there, just unbelievable times.
Complete false reality.
Complete false reality. Not a care in the world. The only worry you have is being yelled at by Marty for maybe sleeping too late because we went out too late the last night.
Right.
And that's,
Yes.
come on. And this is how it always went at camp, which was so frustrating about dating somebody at camp, was that when it was over, you still had all these feelings, but you had to try to do it long distance, right? And
Right.
you try and keep it going, and then it doesn't work.
And then it fizzles.
You
and then,
get those, you see those cracks in the wall when the conversations aren't the same, and people
Right.
are
They're a little bit awkward. You're like running. You don't know what to talk about on the call,
Right.
or they're like distracted, and like they got people in the room talking to them, and they're not paying attention to you while you're on the phone,
Right.
and you're like, what's going on
right,
here?
and you're just like, oh my god, this is falling apart. Yeah, and then you just and it sucks. And then the thing that sucked about it for me was like, it was happening in college when you're supposed to be with it. I'd have it happened that one time, and then I was depressed for like a whole semester over it, and then eventually got over it for second semester. But it happened again when I dated somebody else the following year. But we actually kind of kept that. We actually did keep that together for like a whole year, and then it fell apart. So it just brought me back to those times where the pain that you feel, and then I went through some bad relationship. Just my life has been a little more difficult, I feel, than for other people, because I've had to move around so much. My career.
Yeah, definitely different kind of challenge than a lot of people have to face. Yeah.
Early on in my career, I didn't want to lead people on to be like, listen, I'm not sticking around here. I'm moving on. So, just through life, like bouncing around. So like when it got later in life, I didn't make the best decisions as to who I was having relationships with. So that, it's just, this song dug up a lot of bones for me and made me really think. But in the end, after all of this heartbreak and all this pain that you feel when you're younger, look at what you have now and see who you're with. And I said, the person you're with now should make you the best person that you can be. And I said, then for me, that's my wife. Like, she makes me feel like I'm my best self all the time.
I have a slight variation of that, and maybe it's what you're trying to say too. It's like I've said this to Amy a lot over the past several years, and even when we got married, I think I said, she makes me want to be the best I can be.
Right.
You know, like I want to always be my best for her, with her, etc. And so, yeah, and I think that's what shapes us as adults are those experiences. Like I was saying, for our kids, it's like we don't know what we want until we go through the things we don't want.
Right. And I just, you think about your kids, you just don't want them to be sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get any hate for those tweets?
Not one hate. All positive.
Really?
Yep, a lot of likes. Look, Taylor Swift's fan base is rabid. If
I know.
say anything nice about her, you're going to get plenty of nice things back. So, yeah, I got a lot of rando likes, hearts and stuff, or some people even saying, I didn't realize this. I have to go watch the documentary, or, this and that.
Uh-huh.
So, I do recommend watching that documentary. It's definitely very interesting.
Resistance is futile. It's the Mark and Lowell Show.
So, yeah, it's quite a thing. The interesting thing about the song, though, is it's not to remind you about your past relationships as far as the person is concerned. It's more about remembering the pain.
Oh.
Do you see what I'm saying? It's not about the person. The person is, forget about the person, right? It's just about that pain that you experienced.
So why do you want to think about the pain that you experienced?
Well, I mean, there was the movie Swingers.
Do you remember the movie Swingers?
Of course I do, yes.
There's a line in it where he's like, you get to a point where you don't feel the pain anymore and you almost miss it. He says that. So I think this song kind of highlights that. My question is for the viewers, or the listeners.
Yes,
the viewers.
Sorry,
listeners.
TV guy. Sorry,
live?
TV guy.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, I do it for the viewers.
Yes, we know.
I'm curious, what is a song that you listen to over and over again after a bad breakup?
Or maybe even just what's a song from your past that reminds you of a bad breakup?
Of a bad breakup, yes. And go ahead and post that on our Facebook page, Twitter, whatever, all the social medias, right?
That's right. Yeah, Instagram too. We're really trying to build up that Instagram. And while we're talking about all the different places you can find us, Lowell, I want to remind everybody, please go to Spotify. Spotify, a month or so ago, added a ratings feature. So now you can give us that 5-star rating when you go to our page on Spotify. So please, please, please go do that. If you're enjoying this show, we would love for you to give listeners a peek at how great this show really is.
Yes, because it is.
Yes. So we will see you next week on The Mark and Lowell Show.
Bye-bye.
Flashback.
Teenage girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so.
How much have you told of this story already before I came on?
Actually, we haven't told any of it. Now,
so this is the first time we're telling this.
This is the first time I think the three of us went to a concert at Wolf Trap. And
no, wasn't it? It was Nissan Pavilion, wasn't it?
No, I believe that was. I believe that one was Wolf Trap.
It was Nissan.
All right, I'll bet you on that later.
Yeah.
So I tell that story all the time, and I call it The Night I Got a Little Crazy. That's like the title of it. But this one is full on, no debate. I completely agree with this one.
Meltdown.
Want to tell it.
We go to the concert. It was actually a good show, and we had pretty good seats, as I recall. We were pretty close to the front. The concert's over. Jonah is realizing that the band hasn't really left the stage. They are now at the edge of the stage, and they are throwing out drumsticks and guitar picks, and they are shaking hands with the crowd.
All right, so I want to take over from here. Just have one part of a story that I get to tell first.
Okay.
So Adam Duritz is reaching down, and he's shaking everyone's hands, and we were literally dead center stage. there was one person between us and the front of the stage. So we were like 5 feet from him. So everyone's reaching their hands up, and Adam's reaching down, and he's shaking everyone's hands. And man, just like you with Blues Traveler, like them for me, it was a huge deal that I was meeting him. And yes, I was totally giddy about it. And he reaches down, he shakes the hand next to me, and then he shakes my hand. And I'm like, holy crap, I just shook Adam's hand. This is so cool. And that part's the normal part. And then he goes to start shaking the hands right next to mine. And I guess that's the part where I sort of went into the zone and didn't realize what was going on, because I reached up and I started rubbing his arm, like literally stroking his arm. I'll never forget. He had a brown silk shirt on, and it was only like 2 or 3 pets of the arm. But I turn around and I look at Mark and Lowell, and they both have this look on their face, like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
yeah,
like, oh my god,
oh man,
what's happened to him?
It was so bad. Lowell and I were looking at each other, and it almost got to the point where we thought to ourselves, like, maybe we should just go.
Yeah,
because he was holding on for dear life.
Wait, but then the best part was when we're walking back to the car, he wouldn't slap us 5 with that hand.
I forgot about that.
You wouldn't let us touch your hand.
Yeah, I'm not tainting my Duritz hand. Hell no.
Now, did you? When did you finally wash that hand?
I still haven't. I hope yeah, I got it going strong.
Yeah.
Remember, we're like, hey, Jonah, what's up? Give me 5, and you're like, no, dude, not with this hand, man. And then you did like a walk ahead of, I just need to be alone for a minute, guys. Just need to be alone. Gotta take this all in, man. What the F, man?
Yeah.
Seriously?
He had the crazy eyes.
Yeah, crazy eyes. Crazy eyes.
Sometimes Mark and Lowell are like the best friends in the world to have around, and other moments, not so much the best friends to have around.
The best is when Lowell and I get together with a mutual friend of Jonah's, and we just have like a nice bash session.
Oh, Joan, you don't understand. Like when Mark gets together with some of your friends from like Baltimore or whatever, they tell me things about you that I had no idea. Like all these situations, and I just sit there with my jaw on the floor.
I was thinking right before you guys called that's literally the roots of Wapapapa is exactly that. I'm thinking like the scenario of being in a bar and like you go leave your friends, you go hit on a girl and you get shot down. And I'm sure there's some dudes out there that come back to their friends and their friends are like, "Oh man, that sucks. You okay? You want to talk about it?" No. My friends are like doing a dance and going,
yeah.
Yeah. Friends like these.
Flashback.
Jonah was a big fan of the Counting Crows.
Oh, I am too. They're one of my favorites.
I just saw them recently. They're still just as good. So we went to a couple of Counting Crows concerts. We've told a story before where we went and the show had ended.
Adam!
The show had ended, and the crowd still stood around at the stage because the guys were giving out drumsticks and things like and shaking hands. And Adam Duritz makes his way to Jonah, who's right there, and he shakes his hand, and Jonah never lets go. And he's shaking it, and he's screaming, "Yeah, Adam! Yeah, Adam!" And he's just holding on, and Adam Duritz is trying to move on and not,
and Jonah then afterwards wouldn't touch anything with that hand.
Yes, it was like a little teenage girl.
I love them so much.
So we went to another concert in college, and we went, the 3 of us. Jonah told us he had a buddy, not really even a buddy, like an acquaintance of his that he knew was going to be there tailgating.
Right.
Jonah didn't even really know the guy, and we're like, all right, fine.
Kind of like skeevy.
Yeah, a little dirty hippie-ish kind of thing.
With white guys with dreads.
Right.
Well, like the lead singer of Counting Crows.
That's exactly right.
At the time. That's right.
So we decided to go, and they ended up having this awesome spread of food. Now, each of us ended up they had all sorts of desserts, and they had chocolate chip cookies. Each of us had them.
Who doesn't like chocolate
Who doesn't like
Everybody.
them? Everybody. We all enjoyed them, but, not really acknowledging it. We weren't sitting there enjoying cookies together. It's just while we were eating food, we just grabbed stuff.
But when I was eating my cookie, it tasted weird.
Huh.
Right.
It tasted...
Well, everybody's recipe is different.
Well, this one was particularly different because
something extra added.
It tasted like something extra was in it.
You know, stuff from other people's kitchen never tastes the same as when it's from your kitchen.
That's true.
You know, they use different butters.
Right.
And,
you just don't know. Different pans. It could be anything.
Different herbs and spices.
Right. Yes, lots of different herbs and spices in a cookie, which I found very strange.
Right.
So I decided after a few bites that I didn't trust it.
Interesting.
Jonah really enjoyed the cookies.
Come after we'd ate, I ate all of my cookie because I was.
They were these big.
I like
cookies.
sweets.
Sure.
And then a little while later, his friend's like, "Hey, man, you guys enjoy the cookies?" And we're like, "Yeah, they were good." He's like, "Oh, you had a whole one?" I'm like, "Oh, what do you mean?" He's like, "Oh, you know what's in those cookies?" I'm like, "Oh no." Yeah.
Okay, now I have to ask you, and you have to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had you ever ingested in any way that product before?
No, I had not.
So this was your
have.
first and
This was
perhaps
my
only
first and
time.
last.
Yeah. Well,
Did you inhale the cookie?
I did. I did not inhale the cookie.
Yeah.
Not in
Yeah.
Figuratively speaking, he did.
Yeah. Figuratively speaking, I did.
He
Wolfed it
ingested
down.
it,
Right.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I had done that before, and knowing that I didn't eat a lot of it, I wasn't too worried.
Knew you were going to be okay.
Jonah was probably
Besides, it was probably already built up in your system at that point.
could have been, and Lowell was a little panicked about.
Yeah,
Well, no,
that's
no,
a bad move,
No,
by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I said this will be fine. It'll be cool. We'll listen to some
Good for you.
tunes, and
That's
we'll be
the-
fine.
That's the spirit.
We'll be fine.
So we get inside and we are waiting for the concert to begin. And the three of us are at our seats, pretty good seats if I remember correctly.
Yeah, they were really good.
Yeah, they were
seats.
very close. We're sitting there waiting, and first thing I notice is that the three of us are very quiet.
Yeah.
Which is very strange for the three of us to be together and be very quiet.
Right.
We're usually loud. I mean, hey, the PoE game comes from the three of us.
Right.
you know?
We're very loud.
So then the lights go down.
Right.
And the music starts. Mm-hmm. Jonah, again, is really excited. You know, the music's playing. Jonah's all in. He's dancing up and down and having a great time. I'm feeling a little strange, but I'm okay. I'm just trying to keep myself in check. And then I turn and look at Lowell, and his eyes are just bugging out of his head. I could just see this sheer panic in his face.
Yeah. I felt like I was wearing like lead boots.
Right.
I couldn't move. I had like this flushed feeling inside of me.
Your heart was beating like a bunny?
Yeah, and I said...
No, you didn't say anything.
Yeah, no, I didn't say anything.
Right.
He
I
was
didn't say,
very
I was
quiet.
I was in my own little prison cell begging to get out.
Right. So a couple of songs go by, and the whole time now I am kind of freaking out because I know Lowell is freaking out.
Right. You were fine until you saw he was in trouble.
Yeah.
You're worried about your buddy. Yeah.
Well, sure, yeah. Finally, I turned and looked at him, and again, he has not said word one to either of us.
This is like being a scuba diver and your diving buddy's air tank has gone out.
Yeah, that's
it's
a
very much
great
like that.
analogy.
Yeah.
Now, Mark, is he enjoying the show, or was he just in
He did,
space?
No.
he did
No,
not
I
look
was
like he was enjoying.
flatlining.
Yes, yeah.
It was. Would it be fair to say it was a panic attack?
Well, once Mark had looked at me and he said, "Hey, man, are you okay?" And I said, "I don't know, man. I think I'm bugging out. I think I am bugging out."
It's true.
And Mark's like, he's like, "All right, let's go."
We proceeded to walk in circles for the next hour and a half.
So you kind of got to
the
hear
entire show.
but you got to hear the music.
we could
from
hear
where
it.
you were.
So.
Yeah.
No?
So. I mean, because basically this is, Lowell could not gain his composure. We would do like a lap or two.
Right.
And then he'd be like, all right. I think I'm okay.
Yeah, because
I'm okay. I'm
being
okay now.
being out in the open and the air,
fresh air. And
it got me to a good place.
So then we'd walk towards the stairs to go back down and be like, you know what? Let's walk a little bit more.
Yeah.
So then we would walk
How many
some
times
more.
did you do that?
I'm telling you,
The whole show.
concert.
entire concert.
the entire concert we
we
spent
missed
walking around
the whole
Well,
show.
a lot of venues you can still hear the music, but I guess it was just echoing,
No,
thumping. and
we
that's
could
really
hear
all
it,
you
but
heard,
it's just that our focus was elsewhere
Right,
because we were
right.
so worried about Lowell gaining some composure.
And Jonah was totally enjoying the show, and I think you even said, like, I waited outside and you went down to him and said, "Listen, man, We know you're enjoying the show. Just do it.
Right.
Yeah, and I think maybe we stopped and I got like a Coke. Like we did.
We went outside a little bit. Came back
we just
in.
ventured around. Like I just couldn't deal.
That
Fresh
was
air.
an awful experience.
Awful. But and then ironically, when it was over and we were walking back to the car and we got in the car, I was like totally.
Yeah, you were fine. You're like, all right, let's go see the show.
It was like I was back to normal.
The storm had passed.
Yeah, it was. I tell you, man, that was an awful.
Well,
awful experience.
I'm sorry you had that experience. It was too much too soon.